share our energies, share his love, his story, and again start vibrating at a higher spiritual frequency. It's very, very important because that's the whole objective of coming together and sharing each other's energy levels. Let's move on with today's satsang. Give me a shout if you cannot see the presentation. All right. Bi-weekly Sunday vaccine, as we think, in today's world of COVID vaccine, I think this Psi vaccine is extremely important. That from ages we have been going to Puttaparthi, receiving his love, and now with the lockdown which started last year, which forced, in fact, people. There are two kind of motivation. The motivation is by fear and by love. The motivation by fear doesn't last long, but the motivation by love lasts long. So initially the lockdown was feeling as quite being imposed, but as and when you started exploring more and more into radio sci, into various commentaries, into various discourses, I think this lockdown gave us immense possibilities to hear to devotees from all corners of the globe seamlessly. And that is what is important. So this Psi vaccine continues, where we are trying to tune in to that frequency where we can listen his voice and he can listen our prayers. It's satsang is a communion with God. It's a communication where we try to establish the links which might have been broken in the din of the world that existed 2 weeks back in the course of the days that preceded. It helps us to reroute and reconnect. Correct? Because we try to rewire and refire those lines which might have missed out. It's very important reminder that we continue just as a bore well. When we dig for water, we cannot keep changing the spots to find the water. It's very important that we persist. We provide a complete fidelity to our Lord. One place, at one position, keep hammering, keep digging, because someday it's going to reveal. And that's a very, very important thing. That's what distinguishes us, separates us from the great devotees of Bhagavan in various eras when they existed. Right? It's very important whether it was Buddha or Prahlada or Meera or anyone or Hanuman. They did not change their fidelities. They believed the superconscious in Krishna or Rama or whatever, or Vishnu or Narayana, and they continued with that, and eventually they found him, or rather he found them. So it's very important that we continue with ek astha, ek naam, ek japa, ek mantra, ek Ishwar, ek Prabhu, ek Satya Sai. And once we do that in the whole world, it starts getting blurred and fading out, and the only thing which remains in focus is Sai, Sai, and Sai. And that's a very, very important part that we need to be aware about. Moving on, brothers and sisters, with this weekly reminder, let's go on. We were on this topic of me or God, who controls the destiny. And that was something we deliberated for the last quite a few weeks, tug of war between my will and his will. All right. So let's move a little bit closer to this factor. Okay. So can destiny be overcome? That was the topic that we were discussing. Can destiny be overcome? And we spoke about the vibration and the energies that we vibrate. When we think positive, we draw from that, energy clouds, positivity. We think negative, we try to attract negative, because the whole universe is based on the law of attraction. All right. And we all vibrate. It depends on the frequencies. And we spoke about the brain waves. The thoughts that we stimulates the brain into generating certain kind of waves, or to exist in certain kind of waves, right? We spoke about beta, alpha, delta, theta, gamma, all these different waves with different frequencies. So we understand the importance of thoughts, because thoughts becomes actions, actions become habits, habits become tendency, tendency become character, character becomes destiny, as Bhagavan has said. So very important, we must do a changeover, right? As you see in this photograph, a very important changeover, that whatever our arsh, the vargas that we have, Kama, Krodh, Lobh, Mad, Moha, let's start watching them. Let's start tapping the positive energy that exists in various forms of satsang, by thoughts, words, deeds. When you talk to people, when you are in thought alone, think positive. And when you start looking for things which is positive, it has to be a conscious effort. It doesn't happen just like that, because it is years and years and janmas of vasanas and the vrittis which have been stored in our chitta. If you have an utensil you want to make curd, what do? You put a little bit of curd and the milk and you leave it overnight and it is formed, right? Now, the same utensil, now you want to clean, you don't want curd, you want to place milk and boil it. But suddenly you see the milk has again got spoiled. Because even though we have cleaned, there is still some hard residue. And that is what happens with our vritti. So it requires us, all the efforts goes sometimes in vain because that core, that chitta is still having those stains of the vargas, one of them or all of them. And that is where we start getting again, it's like you're moving on a car with the handbrakes on, right? You're trying to move ahead, but you're not realizing that this handbrakes are still on, or the clutch is on where you are not accelerating. So very important for us, we have to change over, we have to make this conscious changeover so that we start vibrating. And that choice, as we spoke about, is between the fate and destiny. Fate is what comes from the previous accumulation, destiny is how we respond by self effort when we choose. So we have to do this part by doing satsang, various activities. As you can see in this photograph, we have to start the cleansing, you know, rubbing, just as you do the essentials. And those rubbing and the agents are namasmarana, satsanga, seva, anything which will help us to connect to God. We don't have to work on detaching from the world, brothers and sisters. Very, very important for us to know. We have to be just unmukh to God. You know, it's like you just face the sun and the shadow falls back. You don't have to fight the shadow. We don't have to fight the bring in detachment or negativity. We just have to start loving God more, doing, being the part of squirrel or a Hanuman or a monkey or a Vibhishana, which was a Rakshasa, being in any form to add to his mission. And that is when all these other things will start fading away. And that is important, chitta shuddhi. If we don't work on this, all the efforts that we are trying to do will not give us the results that we are looking for. Because now in this age, we want combo offers, we want to pay for one and we want to get more. And that mindset also applies in spirituality. We sit down for bhajan, and once we do a Thursday bhajan or a seva, we have done enough. Now we start expecting from God, accounts and hisab. We start asking him, why didn't you do it? I went for the bhajans, I went for the seva. It's a persistent effort, it's a conscious effort, it's a continuous journey from janmas, right? And so we have to raise our vibration. This is what we spoke, and how it impacts very graphically we'll try to see. Now let's say you meet across a person, good or bad, I'm not judging it, but depending on the energy level that that person is existing, you meet a friend who is full of emotional energies, right? Which is nothing but vibration. Now you come across to him. So what is happening? We all read about Frank Baranowski, how he studied the aura, and also we saw earlier the Sputnik sensor that we spoke about, the biocells, which is measuring the photo charges that a human body or a human being emanates. And then it was measured during Rudram and Kulvanthal and so on and so forth. We've spoken about it in the previous sessions. So remember, everybody is emanating certain energy levels, right? So when you come across a person, what happens is this an energy transfer. Knowingly, unknowingly, we are not aware. We think we are just talking. But remember, the energy, the aura that the person is, or the house is, or that particular place is, it starts subconsciously entering your being. So when he or she starts experiencing, let's say somebody is in deep stress or in deep negative cloud, that also starts coming into our being. And our positivity, of course, if you are positive, it starts going to the other person. I remember my mother saying, in 70s, my father was, he used to meditate a lot, to do a lot of prayogs and a lot of, dhyan and things. And Swami came in one dream. And he used to help a lot of people. He used to call, the spirits and make them talk. Some people who lost their mother, they will cry inconsolably in his office, and then he will sit down and say, okay, we'll do it. And like this, he was like a godfather. I mean, he's still there, but he doesn't do these things anymore since that time. So I'm talking about pre-1975 era, when Swami came into my mother's dream and said, "Isko itna kuch deta, ye sab kharch kar deta." You know what he meant? What he was saying, that I am giving so much to him, but he spends, he releases all that into these kind of interactions. And this photograph, what I'm showing, exactly shows your when you share these energy levels, you also become a shareholder of the other energy, right? Unless you have spiritually evolved and being conscious about being in equanimity, like Yudhishthira was, in different phases. Even when Draupadi was being disrobed, he was in perfect sign of equanimity. I'll come and talk to you about that later. Now look at the third photograph. After that emotional exchange that happens, after the talks, the energy and the time you spend and the intensity of the feelings, sometimes you may be present but you are mentally absent. In that case, it doesn't impact you. But when you're present, you're emotionally and physically and mentally present, there's an energy exchange, brothers and sisters. And that's what you see in the photograph. The energy exchange happens. Sometimes you come back home very heavy or completely light, depend on what interactions, what associations you have. And that is why the word Sai, if you remember, SAI, is Sai first, S for Sai. A is association next, that means the others next. And I is myself the last. The moment you put Sai first, our whole priorities in life changes. All right. So be mindful of these energy and the vibration that we want to vibrate in, we want to be in. It just depends on us and the choice of satsang. That is not only the books, not only the videos, not only talk, but even the thoughts that we choose to do or take in. So it plays an important role, right? Satsang. Let's move on. How does it do it? There is stats and there is a historically proven, these scientists have established that our mind is composed of about 90% of the subconscious part and 10% is conscious. So when you look initially, let's look at an average person who has got different impressions. These things, what happens around us every daily basis causes impressions. So let's look at this. You don't see much of impression, which is spiritual, because the mind is so preoccupied with the worldly things. Now, let's say we make a conscious effort, we attend satsang, we attend bhajan, we want to get rid of all this. We have had a lot of stress. Remember, a thorn which has gone into your hand, another thorn can help us. One karma can help us mitigate the other karma to help us not balance, but to overcome it, the effects of it. So we start thinking positive, we start looking into things positive. The energy level, when you see was black, starts tending into gray. This is the aura that the person carries. There's a little bit of change. And due to that change, you see a small center in your subconscious mind builds up. Correct? A small consciousness, awareness with the respect, you start interesting. Everybody who has been a Sai devotee or Rama or anyone, especially for Sai devotee, what we can see, the journey started at some stage of inquisitiveness or a miracle happening. In our case, it started in 1969 when Father got Satyam Shivam Sundaram book. And when he brought in, there was absolute fragrance in the house. I was 1 year old. I rely on what they have said. And that fragrance made him understand that what is there in this book, the moment we have brought in, there's fragrance in the house. So that devotion center, what you see yellow, started. Okay, the beej, the seed was sown. Of course, it is all by his grace. And then you start hammering, you start thinking over it over again, traveling over it over again. It's on the field, the grassland where you start making impressions now deeper and deeper. Why? Because you are regularly visiting and revisiting those places and those areas. When you do that, devotion center or the spiritual center enhances. And as it enhances, slowly, the energy, the vibration that you vibrate in, you exist in, starts increasing. Your subconscious mind, which was a reservoir of all the nonsense which was happening. Why? Because we were feeding consciously into it. Slowly starts getting the positive things, the spiritual aspects, and it starts getting more and more bigger. And then you start thinking positive, you start feeling positive, you start being positive despite the challenges. And that's very important to understand, that all these aspects, what we do, seva, satsang, narayan seva, whatever, listening to good scriptures, everything is helping us to subconsciously build this so that we vibrate at a higher energy level. And how Bhagwan does it in terms of the investment banking or the banking, the divine banker that we started correlating this with, Swami is making a long-term investment in us, instilling values in us by offering educate program, Satsang, spiritual education that we see the children getting it today. It's Sunday, so Singapore also different gurus are engaged in sharing Swami's teachings with them, with the children. And then the tamasic, all these three are made of three components, three gunas: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. So inherently more of tamasic, which is in us, starts getting changed over and converted. More and more sattvic comes in. So it's not that we have fought the tamasic, we have worked on the sattvic, which has started engulfing everything else. So now we are into a different existence. And then Bhagavan says, let us look at Let us look at permanent investment that Swami is making us to be good, to do good, to see good. This is the investment he's making in us, instilling the long-term human values. And then Swami says, when you deposit valuables in the bank, say your documents, jewelry, or others, the banker returns this in good condition at a later point of time. In the same manner, countless devotees and students come here to Universal Banker, that is our beloved Satya Sai, and entrust in his care. Swami nurtures and transforms all of them after investing them with immeasurable wealth of knowledge and good conduct. Okay, so when we are doing this, we are actually investing, correct? We are creating more and more reserve for our sanchit karma, which is going to get attached and be accounted for in our next life, succeeding lives to come. It's very important. So whenever we do anything, we think anything, remember, in God's, in man's law, only physical action is taken into law. It's termed under legal domain. But in God's law, even thoughts are counted because they also make an imprint. So we have to be aware about what we think. Moving on. As Swami Yogananda said, Yogananda says, the entire universe is God's cosmic motion picture, and that individuals are merely actors, what we have been talking in the divine play, who change roles through incarnations. Then he says, mankind is deeply suffering, which is rooted in identifying too closely. Remember what the word identifying too closely with the role. That is, we have made a body identification, Deha Bhimana, correct? Rather than Atma Bhimana. And possibly this may be the reason. Whom have we chosen to be at the driving seat? If it is me, which is I, which is Bindu Shekhar, or which is, Brother Shastri, or any one of you, then Bhagavan, the superconscious element, becomes a witness and we become the participant. And when we become the participant, then we attribute everything that as if we are holding on. It's like the photograph you see on the monkey is where the baby monkey is holding on to the monkey, right? The mother monkey is not holding the baby monkey. So it's like our effort. That's why you see in Kali Yuga, why Bhagavan said Namasmarana and devotion, because Bhakti Marga is the easiest. It's not a road. It's not something that it's a process, right? So when we want to know Bhagavan, we want to do everything and take a decision consciously that it's my action, my being, because I'm Bindu Shekhar, I'm so-and-so father, so-and-so decision. As long as these things exist, God is a witness and we are the participant. He's not at the driving seat, as you can see, illustratively shown in this figure. But when we choose that Ishwar, please speak through me, think through me, feel through me, act through me, behave through me, conduct through me. Swami, I surrender to you when I start. I may make a mistake, but please help me to do that. What we are trying to choose or bring in is, we are trying to become the witness and let him be the doer through us. It's very important to make him the stakeholder of our journey. It's very important to give him the power of attorney, brothers and sisters, right? And when we do that, he becomes a participant. Then he is holding like a cat, the baby cat, kitten. What happens is the kitten surrenders and the mother picks up and takes. We wouldn't have been here, we wouldn't have been in Swami's fold if he had not picked us up. 100% sure, brother, billions of people out there in the planet, how many of us are fortunate to be born at this time, to have been associated, to have gone to Puttaparthi, to have had this darshan, or even if not darshans, through Shravanam, through Kirtanam, to have known him, just as people rever Rama and Krishna, those people who have existed in this planet where Lord Sathya Sai walked. And that's where he has picked up like a mother cat, right? So we have chosen to keep him in the driving seat. And when we do that, you can see a clear distinction. When we allowed, I am the doer, it is my will. When we allowed, he is the doer, that means we surrendered. Of course, he executes through us. But we have that submission in our heart that, Swami, please help me to think and take the right things, decisions, then his will. So between my will and his will, this is the catch where we have to start differentiating, talking after we have discussed quite a bit on this in the preceding weeks. Now, let's look at this power pact statement, Gita Vahini. I had read it earlier, but yesterday I visited again. After Arjuna returned from Dwaraka, when Krishna had left his, physical frame, he says, and this is Swami's written, I learned the day that not even tiniest event can happen unless willed by Vasudeva. I got fully convinced of this. He is the puppeteer, the holder of the strings that moves the puppets and make them act as per their roles. But he seats himself among the spectators and pretends to be unaware of the plot or story or the cast. Look at this statement. It's extremely important for us to understand the statement here. And we all know the whole drama what was enacted in Mahabharata and also in Ramayana. I'll come to that. The characters cannot deviate a dot. Brothers and sisters cannot deviate a dot from his master plan. The only thing that left to us is acceptance of divine will. His will guides and determines every single moment. He decides what this person should say, what this person should do, and he prompts the appropriate words and deeds. The world is a stage on which each one acts as a role allotted to him. He causes beings to create being. He causes beings to end beings. Bodies get born, bodies die. Nothing more serious happens at birth and death. And then he says every drop of blood coursing through these veins is drop from the shower of his grace. Every muscle is a lump of his love. Every bone and cartilage is piece of his mercy. How beautiful this is, establishing the truth, provided we decide my will or his will. But the truth, eventually it is all in his cosmic plan and the drama, right? But it appears as if we are doing, or it appears as if he is doing, depends on our state of awareness. And then he says, but the truth that everything happens as he wills. Every single event is decision of Bala Gopala. And this is when he was so much distraught when Krishna left his body. And then he saw all the Yadavas, there was a big ceremony and the priests were there. Everybody was given food and the Yadavas also sat down and had food. But along with the food, there was some drinks served, after which this worked on them. Of course, this is a master plan because the yuga has to change over. And they started killing each other. They started robbing, and then the tribals attacked. And Arjuna was completely helpless. He was shouting out, "Don't you know I'm Arjuna, the great gun, the warrior?" And despite all this, he said, I could not pick up and do much about it. I saw helplessly people being killed and women being, taken away. Same Arjuna, who was the greatest warrior, he felt helpless, soulless, spineless because Krishna was no more there. The association of existence was so much that without Krishna we are no one. In fact, when you read that, the moment the news is broken to Mother Kunti, the moment, brothers and sisters, she departs. She just departs. Now that is what is surrender. That is what is Atmabhiman. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 1861, Swami, please forgive if I'm not able to, do the right pronunciation because I read them but not in the right connotations. Ishwar sarva bhutanam hriday deshe rajuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani mayaya. O Arjun, the supreme Lord dwells in the hearts of all living beings. Whether you choose to obey me or not, your position will always remain under my dominion. The body in which you reside is a machine from my side. I've given you a gift. Go, enjoy the work. Based upon your past karmas, I've given you the kind of body you deserved. Based on the past karmas. Look at this. The affirmation to what we have been speaking. I too am seated in it. I'm noting all your thoughts, words, and so he's saying I'm seated in your body as a consciousness, as the Atman, noting everything. Thoughts, words, deeds. So I will judge whatever you do in the present. Do decide your future. Do not think you are independent of me. Brothers and sisters, do not think we are independent of Sai anytime. Even if a negative thought comes at that moment, remember, he is the Sakshi and it is already recorded. Right? Hence, Arjuna, it is in your self-interest to surrender to me. There was one devotee, one doctor, in super speciality, who asked Swami, how many mistakes you forgive? And Bhagavan said, as many as mistakes you make, I will forgive. But remember one thing, there is one condition attached to it, NRR, which is non-repeating repentance. That means if I made a mistake, I must realize I've made a mistake and I should not do it. Brothers and sisters, mistakes, we are like the COVID-19, several mutations. We have several mutations of mistakes. We can make in this area, this area, this area. There's so many areas we make a mistake. But the most important thing is, let's have a not repeating repentance. A sincere repentance, the sin is actually condoned by Bhagwan. Moving on, just to embolden and make us understand how God changes and what are the conditions that He changes our destiny, or in what things that He helps us to change or overcome it. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, sloka 22, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Again, this is a very pertinent sloka, brothers and sisters, where he says, those who always think of me engage in exclusive devotion to me. We spoke about one pointedness, right? To them whose minds are always in me, I provide what they lack and I preserve what they have. Remember, this is very important. Not only what you are desiring, he gives you, but what you already have, it is also preserved. Know that I'm always with him, ever providing him in this world, in the next world also. I bear the burden of his yogakshema, welfare. And then he says, do you hear me? Are you clear about it? Brothers and sisters, is a prompting to all of us. You see the Govardhan forest, which was the mountain which was lifted. Again, this mountain was one of the mountains which during the Ramayana's time, Lord Rama, when the bridge was already built up, the Setu bridge, there was this mountain already picked up. So it was very happy that it was going to be a part of that mission, but suddenly Rama said the bridge is already built. We don't need anymore. They placed the mountain. The mountain, they were tears. I mean, this is how the thing is described in Ram Katha Raswahini. And then Rama goes and it shows, don't worry. In my next incarnation, I will come and lift you. And he kept it. Now look at the, when we speak about previous birth and all this birth, look at the commitment God gives. He comes and he lifts the Govardhana, right, to save all the Yadavas from the huge storm and deluge of water and rain. And that is important. You look at Brother Kasturi here, all these devotees, the great masterpieces who always exclusively engaged in Swami and Swami and Swami alone. Let us introspect and say, how much percentage of that surrender we carry, brothers and sisters, makes a difference. And then he goes on. Bhagwan goes on in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, sloka 65 says, Mana mana bhava mad bhakto madayaji mam namaskuru mam evasyami satyam te prati jane priyosmi. Always think of me, be devoted to me. Now he's demanding that, he's commanding that, because he knows that is the best way for you to redeem. Worship me and offer obeisance. Doing so, you will certainly come to me. This is my pledge to you. When you do that, there is already a pledge, a contract, for you are very dear to me. What a beautiful assurance we have. And we are worried about destiny and we are not thinking about divinity. We are worried about fate and we are not even instilling faith. It's important that we do a turnover, brothers and sisters. And last but not the least, which is pertinent to the topic that we are discussing, Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, 66 says, Sarva dharmam parityaja mamam ekam sharanam vraja. Ahang tvam sarva pape bhyo mokshasyami ma suchaha. Don't worry. Don't fear. Bhagwan says, why fear when I am here? Ma suchaha. Why fear when I am here? Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Simply surrender unto me alone. I shall liberate you from all the sinful actions. But is that so simple to surrender? That's the big thing. That is the thing. All that we are trying to reconnect, rewire, refire in these sessions where we to understand how we can get closer and make Bhagwan happy. You see, if you do with this criteria, if we all think that if today I did this, Swami will be happy. Or if I did this, Swami will not be pleased. If we have that benchmark, if we are able to calibrate ourselves daily, I think we are in the right path. It's very important for us to understand and put that if think what we do pleases Swami, then we are in the right direction. Okay, so moving on, the grace, because very important is to earn his grace, because grace wipes everything. And then he says that for those who exclusively worship me, meditate me with no other thought, who are ever steadfast, I barely entirely the burden of that devotee. Okay, grace takes away the malignity of the karma. Now here Swami says grace takes away the malignity of the karma. which we are so bothered about. Why I'm suffering? I did not do this. I did not do this. But we have understood by these sessions that there is something called prarabdha karma. There is something called sanchit karma. Even with we are not aware, and good that we are not aware. Let's say if you were aware, if a son is born to you and this awareness is because the son has come to settle the scores with you because you did something in the previous birth. There's so many cases like that. Will we be at peace when we know everything? Suddenly you will start knowing and distasting life, or you will start become out of vengeance. And that is why deliberately nature has chosen to wrap this up. As a child, you may be aware, because as and when you start growing, the layers start forming and you start forgetting. And there Bhagavan says, grace takes away the malignity of the karma. You know, there are dated drugs which are declared ineffective after a certain date. Well, the effect of karma is rendered nil, though the account is there and has to be rendered. Now he's talking about the impact. We might go through it, but will not be feel the pain. The pain becomes optional. Suffering can be there, but the pain is optional. We'll not feel it, brothers and sisters. And then he says, it is wrong to say lalata likhitam. What is written in the forehead, fate cannot be wiped out. What one has earned in the previous birth. Grace can countermand all that. Nothing can stand in the way. It is the grace of the Almighty. Remember, again, a very powerful reminder. His will, my will, whether this we are destined to do this. Who decides? Everything pre-written, but with his grace can be rewritten, brothers and sisters. And that is where Swami says spiritual practices like daily prayer, service, meditation, all these things that we try to do reduces the intensity and magnitude of the karma phala, consequences of the actions in the past. It gives us courage to bear it. We may not be able to see the transformation that comes with by these good actions. Bhagavan says you may not be able to visualize with your mind, yet the transformation is surely to attract that grace. We all have seen where Bhagavan says the Nama Smarana and destiny cannot exist together if we are sincerely doing this Nama Smarana. And then he has spoken about Bilva Mangala, this person who was born, and then he was so enamored when he grew up by one woman, Chintamani. It's kind of in today's world, you can say live in relationship. This guy was so enamored when his father died, even when the pandits were doing the karma kanda, of the funeral rites, he asked them, accelerated them to do it fast because he has to go to Chintamani. And brothers and sisters, once when he went to Chintamani, there was huge storm. He had closed the door thinking he will not come. He crossed the river in that storm, held the snake and went up. He climbed the wall because the door was closed. And then finally, when he knocked, she opened. She said, hey, how come you have come in this rough weather? He said, this is what I could not resist. And she says, remember, there are turning points in everybody's life. It depends on us whether we take it. For him, the turning point was that when she says, what, you're mad? If this intensity you had for Krishna, you know how much blessed you would have been? You would have got lives, all the happiness and the bliss that you're looking for in this short happiness that you come for. And that is what it changed him. Bilva Mangala then went to Vrindavan, started meditating. Brothers and sisters. He did a lot of penance, just like we hear about Vishwamitra. He did penance. And then when he went one day to pick up water, in that same pond, there was a lady who came to pick up. And again, the previous vasanas and chittas, like I told you, even if a small curd remains in the utensil, the milk will again get bad. He got enamored and he followed that girl. She was from a business family. He knocked the door. The father came. The father, they all knew him to be a good saint in that area. And the father says, yes, how can I help you? He says, well, I want to be with your daughter alone. Then the father says, you are such a holy saint, we cannot refuse. And he said that, okay. And when he goes inside, suddenly he gets understanding that, what am I doing? He asks, a pin, which had two pins, like a fork. And he pierces his eyes. That Bilva Mangala becomes Suradas. And then Suradas eventually, he said, I could not. This eye is the reason for me to get trapped into all these distractions. While Suradas could do that, we are not able to do that, brothers and sisters. But we have the privilege to have so many discourses and, company of such a dedicated devotees to benefit from, to allow our mind not to wander so much. And then Suradas, we all know, as the history says, One time when he fell in the well, when he fell in the well and he was shouting to be taken out, Krishna came to bring him out as a Bal Gopal, but not telling him because he was Surdas. And then when he came out, the boy who pulled him out was going away, and Surdas said, "Hello, where are you going? Can you tell me who you are?" He says, "No, I'm just a boy, was passing by." He says, "You cannot be. You are my Krishna, my Gopala." And that was a time when he was given a choice for the eyesight to be turned back, but he refused. He said, "What is the use of this eyesight which is distracting me and deviating me from my Lord?" Brother and sister, look at the surrender, look at the focus, look at the intense desire to be with what? To choose I or to choose Sai. And that is what the difference we going make to make a conscious choice. I will end possibly because there's some more things in this, but I think Brother Kumar has joined. Uh, Brother Shastri, is it okay we continue next week? Little bit is remaining about 25-30 minutes because this quite interesting phase now was coming in. But let's listen to Brother Kumar because we'll. Brother Kumar is one of the extremely inspiring individual I have been and seen. I call him always omnipresent brother because in every seva activity I used to see when I came in Singapore, and I still see him. So Brother Kumar has inspired a lot of people by his silent service. He just goes on, does, and I'm sure we all will be blessed to have him. Brother Kumar, are you there? Om Sai Ram, Brother Kumar.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, brother, we can hear you, but we want to see you also when you speak.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, Sai Ram.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, can you put your video on, brother?
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, brother, Sai Ram.
Hope you can see me.
Yes, brother.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes, brother, over to you. All yours, brother.
Oh,
Please.
thank you. After hearing your brother Bindu talk, quite informative and quite divine. I'm not a very big spiritual talker or anything like that. I'm a very simple devotee of Swami, doing simple seva, and I will like to start with how I came to Swami, how I met him first in 1986.
Sure.
I was not a Sai devotee. Actually, I went there on a course of my work to Puttaparthi. I'm actually an electrical engineer, but trained in biomedicals. And I was working in General Electric. We used to supply X-ray, cobalt, and CT scanner to hospitals there. So in 1986, that was Swami's 60th birthday. There was a lot of renovations and other things happening in the general hospital. And we have installed X-ray equipment, 300 mA X-ray machine in the general hospital. And I represent the company going there. And I was there one day before the Swami's birthday for the next day is the inauguration of the special unit. I was there for final checking and handing over the machine on the previous day, that is November 22nd, 1986. So I was given a guest room in one of the things because I came as a representative of the General Electric company. So I was inside the room in the morning about 10:30. I was checking the unit like that, and nobody told me that Swami would be coming. So around 10:30, 11. Suddenly, everywhere it was silence, and suddenly I was checking the machine, and that time suddenly I saw me standing in the door of the room with the eyes wide and have a big smile. I'm seeing Swami for the first time. And for me, he's a customer. I didn't even say namaste. I didn't do it. I said, hello, sir. Just like I greet any other customer. Swami acknowledged with a big smile. And he was accompanied by one of the ministers. I think Andhra Pradesh, some minister was there with him. He came inside the room and he went around and he went to the dark room of the X-ray unit and then came back and he was telling the minister in Telugu, engineer garu vachindaru, machine chupistunaru, he thought. And he was there for about a few minutes, but I was totally, I couldn't, I just was standing and looking at him only. I didn't even say namaste also. After some time, moment after she left the room, suddenly the thought came to me, I should have at least done namaskar. I did have opportunity for a namaskar. One in a million opportunity in a lifetime to have alone in the room with Swami. I should have. I didn't even say namaskar. I should have pada namaskar. Anyway, which didn't happen. But the smile and the wide eye look he gave me, and that is there. It is enough for me for the rest of my life. That is the greatest boon I had that time. And the next day was the Swami's birthday, 60th birthday. A lot of celebration was going on, but I finished my job, and in the afternoon I hand over the machine to the doctor concerned. And I didn't even wait for. I went and I stayed for one more day, but I couldn't go anywhere near the celebration happening because the crowd was too much there. And next day evening, I left and went to Madras like that. And this happened in 1986. And then but it was what I did was during celebration, a lot of books and other things were sold there. So I bought some books and some cassettes from me, songs and everything. And that's all I did. And I went back to Madras. But it was something was telling me that I should have got the opportunity, but I missed it anyway like that. But that's the end of it. Then I used to listen to his cassettes once in a while and this thing. But once you sell a machine, nearly for 1 year, you have to do after sale service. So we had to go 2-3 times. So I purposely made it a point to visit Puttaparthi for the sake of seeing the machine, but actually a back of mind is seeing Swami only. But I went there, but unfortunately, whenever I went, I couldn't even get 1,000 meters near him. I was always away. And anyway, that was the first step. It came like that. Then afterwards, I was involved in my work. I was operating from Secunderabad. And Hyderabad is from there only we used to operate all these areas. Then it went like that. Then in 1990, 92, I left the company because this our work is involved in X-ray and cobalt. A lot of radiations there because you have every year we have to have radiation coming and we have to monitor how much radiation you are taking up, and there is a limit much radiation you can take, and after that you are given off. But I was not, I don't bother. I was just like that. So in 1992, I left the company because of this radiation only. Otherwise, because I was in the field. If I was in the other area, means I don't have to go directly to any of the hospitals or like that. Anyway, it was a blessing that I was there in Puttaparthi. I was able to meet him, Baba, in 60th birthday. Yeah. Then I left there, and then in 1994, I was thinking for a change in place. I was in Madras, and then I thought I will go out and try for a venture out. Then that's how I started. I thought I will come to Singapore. So 1994 February, I came to Singapore, and I'm a biomedical engineer. I tried, we applied for so many hospitals and other things, but in Singapore, they give more preference for the, even though you have experience, they give more preference for the local people who to get the things. So I didn't get much of the type of job which I was looking for. I couldn't get. So I thought I will go back. And I was a bit, no, I used to go to Indian Association where I had some friends there. I was staying in Newton at that time with my some IT friends were there. I was staying with the Newton in one of the condo there. Then around, I was a bit, I was thinking, actually, I was thinking of going back. It was sometime in June 1994. I thought I would come back to India. And then when I was in Indian Association, one of the brothers who used to come there to play poker and all those things, he is a manager in the Indian Bank. His name is Brother Krishnan. He told me, it seems you are very disturbed. Why don't you go to Perumal Temple? There is a Satya Sai Baba and a bhajan going on there every Thursday. And why don't you go and attend? You may find some relief, he told me. Then suddenly it came, recalled me, they saw me, I have seen in 1986, it came to me. And though I used to go to all the temples in Singapore before, I have gone to Perumal Temple during the February to June. I used to go to Perumal Temple, all the temples, not only, all the temples I go. But it never occurred to me that outside the Perumal Temple in the Kalyana Mandapam, this bhajan is going on Thursday, because I used to go, I just go to temple and go back. So in June 1994, I first went for evening bhajan on Thursday. And I went there quite a bit early, I think 6:30. I was sitting in the parapet there, and I was watching, and I saw, you must be knowing Brother Krishnan and they were all there. Brother Bernard was there, and Brother Raj was there. They are putting the mats on the thing for prior to the starting the bhajan. So, but I didn't get involved in any of the thing. I was just watching, sitting and watching what is happening there. Then when the bhajan started, I just went inside, and I also sat with the group backside, and I was just sat there, and I saw people singing and clapping hands and all those things. I didn't get to know, because I'm the first time I'm attending any of the bhajan or anything like that. So I just sat there, I listened, but I didn't even clap. I was just listening, and I was just, it happened. I was there, was physically present there, but not. I didn't even sing. I didn't even see chorus. I was there. So next week I again went. And then this time I thought, instead of sitting there, I should do something. So when the brothers were doing some job of mat and all those things, I went and asked them, can I, they didn't ask me. When I went there, they asked me, do this. Some small things they gave me, I used to do. And there was a bookstall there. Prior to the bhajan, the bookstall thing was kept there. So I went there and held them also. Then I bought a book, Satya Sai Speaks, from there. Again, books from there. And then I was in the bhajan. That time I clapped that bhajan. I clapped, but I didn't sing chorus. I don't know whether I should sing. I don't know. Chorus I did. And that was, it was in fourth week of June. And after that, next week I again went. This time I started a chorus, and I slowly started clapping also. And it happened like that. And I was, during the course of this thing, I was, I have to tell frankly also, before coming to Singapore, I used to drink. I used to eat, I used to drink, means beer only. That is all. And I didn't like the hot drinks, only beer only. But I used to have it regularly, whenever, at least 2 or 3 times in a week. I used to go I was staying in Newton, I used to go to Orchard and have it in the bar there. And I used to eat non-veg also, but mostly fish and egg only. meat. I didn't like it that much. So in the fourth week of July, first week when I went, before I was reading the book, and in the book it is written, one of the end of this chapters, it is written, if you want to achieve something, you have to sacrifice something. That's what is written there. So I thought from next week onwards, from this week onwards, I will stop. I will become pure vegetarian. Nobody told me. It just came to me. I become pure vegetarian. It's happened in July 1st. So I stopped eating, but still I used to go and have my beer. So then again, I was reading, and then again thought, what is the use of doing one thing alone? So I must stop that also. So I stopped in 1 week. 1 week, within 1 month, within the second week, I stopped drinking also. Then I become a total, I stopped drinking, and I used to be a pure vegetarian after that. And I have to leave Singapore. My end of the day of my visa, I'm not still working. And June 19th was the last day, July 19th. So I was still, then I went on July 1st week, I went to Indian Association again, but this time I was there. All the other people are drinking and eating, but I never touched any of the non-veg thing. I never drank also. I was thinking how I am going to control it, but I was just looking at him and having some soft drink like that. Then one of the brother, he came to me, have you got anything till now? I said, I'm looking for a biomedical thing, nothing happened. So I'm thinking of going back. Then he said, see, I know one firm, they are doing civil work. I'm an electrical engineer, a biomedical engineer, civil thing. They are looking for something for supervision of some contracts and all those things. Why don't you go and meet? So it was Sunday, next Monday, I went, and he is a Malayali, also Dotharian, his name is. And his company is J Ventures. They supply all the granites and everything. He brings and supplies to all the contractors in Singapore. So he was expecting a big contract of supply of the payment tiles and everything from this. That is Suntec City was being constructed at that time. Suntec City, the other areas that he is waiting for the contract. He is hoping that he will get the contract for supply of all the granites, for the payment, and for the buildings there, Suntec City. So he said, okay, you are good, you have come, but this is the thing, I have not got the contract. If you get the contract, definitely I will like you to help me in this work. So I left it like that. So my last days was July 19th. And then I left it, and then nothing happened. Next week also, July 10, 12, nothing happened. So around July 15, he generally called me and said, you come. I think I'm getting the contract. Why don't you help me? So I then, he said, you go and apply. So I went and applied for my employment hours. And fortunately, they had set up the thing. And I was given about 15 days to get the thing done, everything. So I was supposed to leave on July 19th, so I got extended. But within 10 days, I got it approved. So I got the job. And I was approved as a site engineer. Though I was electrical engineer, quite surprising, I got a job for doing civil work. But my father was a civil engineer, but I knew something about civil because I studied engineering civil also. So anyway, I joined the company. I was there, and it was quite good. I was mainly for supervision of contract and all those things. It was going on at that time. So that was going on. Then I'm sorry, I'm saying my experiences only, not anything else.
Yes, please.
So in 1996, then I was attending still every day, every Thursday, bhajans, everything. In 1996, our office was in King George Avenue, and after the office I thought, I came to know that Wednesday they have bhajan in Molmein. So I walked all the way from King George Avenue to Molmein Center. There, Woodley bhajans were going on. Woodley bhajans is actually conducted every Wednesday. English bhajan, English and only two Sanskrit bhajan, all English bhajans only. And by that time, I always used to give chorus very in loud voice in in, in Mandapa. So I went there and the bhajan starts at 8 o'clock. I sat there and brother Dolak Singh was the organizer, and his wife Rose was there. And actually, the center is done by Dr. Yo. He's the one who founded Woodley Center. So I went there and I sat there. Not much people, about 15, 20 people were there. I sat in the men's side. And there was that time there is no PowerPoint. Even in Mandapa also no PowerPoint there. So I went there and I sat, but my chorus is a bit louder than the other people who are standing there, sitting there. So it happened. So after that, Bhajan, he left, and then the sister Rose came and asked me, "Oh, I'm seeing you for the first time. How are you from? Where you are from?" And all those things. He said. Then he said, "Would you like to sing next week?" She asked me. I never sang any song at all till now, any bhajan. So I said, "I have not sung any song. Anyway, no worry. You come about half an hour before we practice. We'll see." So next Wednesday, I went there and she asked me what song you like. I said, "I don't know. They have the book there." So I selected a Narayana song, Sesha Shaidavasa Narayana, something like that. So she helped me to practice it, and after that I sang my first bhajan in Sai Group in 1996. Then after that, then it became a regular thing. Then they started. Then I got involved in that also. I got involved in the Woodley group bhajan singing. I also used to go there early to prepare everything. I used to get the cupboard and arrange before they come. Itself arrange everything like that happening. Then simultaneously this Seva, Narayana Seva also was happening in Molmein. It is done by Brother Krishnan that time, 1996. That time it was 294 cases were there. 294 devotees were giving. So bhajan was going on. Then Narayana Seva all got involved. I just go and help them packing and all those things. It was going on. And Brother Krishnan was there till 1998. Then Brother Augustus took the charge. And he was also there till 2000. And they were all very dedicated people. This is the time, 1996, 98, that time. And they were also doing seva in Bukit Bato home and Swami home under Brother Augustus. I used to also join them. That they do every alternate month in Bukit Bato home and Swami home. That time Tabu's home is not started. It came after that. Yeah. So I used to join them also, but it's quite good. We always used to hire a bus and we go as a group from Molmein. On the bus, we sing bhajan and go there. And we used to, it was quite, we used to entertain all the, giving makan. We used to buy from outside. That time we were allowed to bring food from outside. Yeah. So we used to buy and then go. And they serve them and be with them. That was, and there is certain different people out there for singing and playing games and everything was there. Though the Bukit Bato home, the people are little elderly, but not all the people may not be able to participate. But still, some people used to come and they also like to enjoy whatever we are doing. And then that's how I started with Narayana Seva. then bhajan in Molteni, and then again the seva in Bukipato home and the Swami home, and all this happened. Then another thing happened. They had a clinic. Previously, there was a clinic in second floor. Now is the bhajan hall. So they were looking for volunteers. So I volunteered for that. Every Friday, I volunteered for evening 7 to 9. I used to go and have the clinic. You know, the main thing is you be there in the counter, and people who come for thing, you just check them and then like. So that is additional seva that Swami gave me. So all 3, 4, I think, are going at the same time. Then what happened is around 2000, 2000, Brother Christopher took out the charge of the thing, but for some reason or other, he was unable to continue. And then Brother Gurunathan was the vice president of the Sai Society. So before that, I forgot one thing. 1990, after I go 1996 like that, in 1997, I used to do seva also in Molmin Center. Every Sunday, I used to do seva in Molmin from afternoon time from 2 to 5. I used to be there every Sunday. And in 1997, when I was there, one of the days when I was in the seva, then we have to clean the room, we have to check everything, all that. Then that time, the Sunday group, Chinese bhajan also going on there on the same time. So when I was starting and I was doing that, when I was near the Swami's altar, I was checking. Then I saw a lot of dust on the Swami's photo. So there has a feather thing there. So I took that thing and tried to clean it. I removed cleaned a little. Then I found it is not dust, it is vibhuti. So vibhuti was all over the photo there on the thing. It was all over the Swami's face and the hair and all those things. Vibhuti was there. So I immediately stopped it. I thought I should not touch it. Then immediately I called the other sister who was in charge of the our seva. And I told her, this I found in the photo, the Swami Vibhuti is there on the photo. Then they all got excited. They all next day, they all came, and then everybody was talking about it. But at that time, Dr. Pillai was the president, and he told that, no, this is an international center. We should not encourage all these things, Vibhuti and all things. We don't want publicity and all those things. She asked the Sevadar next day, you clean the whole thing. No, I don't want any vibhuti or anything like that. They cleaned the whole thing. They were forced to clean the whole photo next day. The real surprise came is they cleaned it on next day on Sunday, on Monday, and Tuesday all the vibhuti came back. The whole vibhuti came back. And they were surprised. Then nobody is afraid to touch it. Then they also told, this is not something simple. Vibhuti is coming. We should not touch it. Swami's blessing is there. Let it be there. That's the thing. And it was there. It was there till this photo was there till 2002 to 2004, I think. Then somebody else said the direct sunlight is coming on the photo, so it is getting faded. Then they went and changed the photo. The same similar photo, they put another photo. They had old photo, they rolled it and put it behind the altar. But after that, no vibhuti came. We should have left it like that. That is what I felt. Anyway, it is Swami's wish. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted and said there's something behind. So in 2002 or something, then Brother Gurunathan came and asked me, why don't you take over the seva? Narayana Seva, this thing. Then they said, I think you are always involved there. You are in the prayer hall. You are in the clinic everywhere. So why don't you do it? I said, I will try. So that is how I started the Narayana Seva from then onwards. And it was continued through 2019 July. Everything happened in July only.
Yeah.
So 2019 July. So and then it was 2002 to 2000. We are doing all the other seva also, Bukibato home, Narayana Seva, around 2006 or something. They said Sai Center said they want to remove the clinic from there, because by that time the forest, Satya Sai Forest have Tembusu home, they have started. So they want to remove the clinic to their place, to UNOS. So that second floor was converted into a prayer hall that time. And then, but we are still doing the seva up to 2006, 2008. We are doing seva in Molmin only, over 294 cases. It was quite good because we have do a lot of packing, rice packing, and we have a group of people who is come on Wednesday or Thursday prior to this thing. We pack all the rice, and on Saturday morning we do the food packing. The rice is packed earlier like that. We have a quite number of brothers. We used to have rice packing. Then we go to Sarangan Road. We used to have a Satsang, and we have Makande and Woodlands and all those things. It's happening. Brother, so many people, Brother Kavinder and all those things used to come, and it's happening. Then this happened up to 2006. Then what happened is suddenly the a new rule came. The UNOS was also funding the 294 cases. Suddenly, the new rule the government came is each sector should look after that. Means UNOS woodland sector should look at woodlands only. They cannot finance the other sectors in Singapore because 294 cases is all over the Singapore. So they said we continued a little for nearly 6 months. We continued still doing in UNOS only the packing. We shifted from Molmin to UNOS and all the food packing, and there about 6-7 months UNOS supported us. Then they said they can no more support. You have to they will do only the UNOS side, and the Molmin has to go back to Molmin. So that means about 200 cases still we have, but that time the finance problem and all those things there. So we thought it was closed down for 1.5 years. 1 year. We from 200 cases we did a lot of survey and all those things. We reduced the thing, and we made it to 93 and restarted again in Mormin with 93 cases, and it was continuing from there. And at the same time, UNOS also was happening. That is 100. They increased from 80 to 120, 140. They are still doing it. They're still doing it, but we are not involved. Totally, they are doing in the local, school student, and they themselves will pack and they will distribute.
So another 7 to 8 minutes, and then we'll have to wrap. We can continue later. Some of the days.
No. I will finish it off. I'm just saying that I know. I can share only my experience.
Yes.
So that is the thing. The UNOS thing was happened, and after that, everything happened just like that. We have continued. The story what is happening in Molmin also so it continued like that. And we used to celebrate. Previously, we used to have celebration of the Swami's birthday in Srivansa Perumal Temple till around 2004 or something. And after that, we have our prayers started. We have developed PowerPoint and all those things. And then we started from Molmin onwards. Molmin, because they have increased the rate there every month, every week, $58. Then they increased $200 and everything. So we have decided to come back to Molmin, and we have the bhajan in Molmin only every Thursday. Then the 2018, I know that 2008 and 2019. Actually, I have left my thing. My contract is over 2019. I don't want to continue. So 2019 June was the last time I do Narayana Seva. But we have been doing, when this was happening from 2000 onward, we started doing instead of Swami Home, when the Tambus Home started, we are doing every alternate month in Seva in Tambus Home also, and we are doing in Bukit Home. But Bukit Home, later some restrictions were there, so we concentrated fully on Tambus Home only. We used to do every 2 months once. So it was happening up to 2019 June.
Yeah.
Then I left the thing. I left the committee, and brother Satya was also there. I left the committee, and then after 2019, brother Suresh has taken charge, and he's doing a very good job. He's continuing, and he's happening like that. That is what that is all I can say about Seva. And is whatever happened in my life, it is all Swami's blessing. And we Swami's teaching, I don't have to say. Brother Bindu has said so much about it. I am not very this thing about that. So our takeaway from it is you must continuously strive, and Swami also, I will say a small before my conclusion, I say a small story Swami Chinnakada Swami said regarding this one. He's saying, Swami says about once a king went to forest and he was very hungry and saw a very poor woodcutter family. And but when king went there alone, he was stranded. He went there alone. The woodcutter family gave him some bread and other things for the king, who was very hungry and exhausted. And they also let him rest in whatever facility they have in the hut for the king to go. So the king was very happy, and he gave them 30 acres of sandalwood forest for them, and thinking that he was helping them in, so he will be back rest of his life, he'll be happy and good at it with the sandalwood forest.
Yeah.
But the woodcutter, he also is happy that he got 30 acres of sandalwood forest, but he didn't go deep into it. What he did is he cut all the trees of sandalwood, made it into charcoal, and went and sold in the market. He didn't know the value of sandalwood. He didn't know. He burned all the wood and made it into charcoal and give it to the market and earn his living. He got it little, because if he have sandalwood, if he know the real value of sandalwood, he would have earned much more. But he didn't know about it. So Swami said, I am giving you a lot of good things, but you are using like a woodcutter did it to the sandalwood. Human should develop human qualities and not animal qualities. Time is, don't waste time, and time waste is life waste. Develop divine qualities and have sacred life. Stop unnecessary words, wasteful acts, good thoughts, good deeds, and good conduct, and lead a sacred life. That is what I think. And but as Swami said, help our, hurt our, think good, do good, and see good. That's all. That's all I can say. Jai Sai Ram. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
Sai Ram, Brother Kumar. I think we first time heard from you about the Vibhuti in Molmin Center, which we have heard earlier, but you were the live witness. So it is beautiful to hear that part of the story.
Yeah.
And your seva, yes, I think we all have seen, even Brother Suresh, me, anyone has been inspired that you're doing it. But any chance after COVID, there will be chances of this seva old age home starting up again?
No, brother. I'm not working in Singapore now. I'm here as a visitor only, and I can't get involved. Actually, yes, Brother Suresh has to take the decision.
Okay.
I'm a witness now. I'm a witness. I help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there are so many stories also, because there is no enough time. So maybe.
Yeah, everybody has. But one thing good, you said one thing important, brothers and sisters, what we learned from Brother Kumar also is, the first time he read Satsang Speaks, he saw something has to be sacrificed to get something. And immediately he applied, connected to his life, and he started. So it's like investment. Whatever we invest, we get the return. If we spiritually, we invest in our terms of values, in terms of practicing and teachings, of course we'll get that. So thanks, Brother Kumar.
Yeah. One more thing I did this year in 2020, I decided I will stop eating sweets. So I did it and following it. Thank God.
Wow. See, this is what
Um,
is actually control of senses, not on
yeah,
paper but in practice.
yeah,
And cigarette, meat, alcohol, whatever things that you are speaking about, this is something
yeah,
which people have New Year resolution, and then it is
yeah,
dissolution. There is
yeah,
no
correct.
new resolution. So thanks. I think
I think Brother Kumar is living example for self
yes,
control.
yes,
Uh,
yes, yes,
no, it's not very easy to give up the habits. And in fact, Swami used to have the pan for a number of years. Even I have
yes.
seen till 1985, 86 also.
Yeah,
Then Swami, in one day, he just gave up the entire thing that he was having it for so many
yes,
years because when one of the professors was actually, used to use the nasyam, that powder they used to, sneeze through the nose. So he's having that habit, one of the professors in the university. And Swami ridiculed him. Why are you using, this powder and all that, and you're spoiling the cloth? And the next minute, Swami himself has quoted this to us in the hostel, why he gave up the pan. And
mm,
the next moment, when Swami used his own handkerchief to wipe his mouth, and he saw the red mark, and
mm.
That
just
is true.
just gave up. So I think, but brother Kumar, I think you have been great in terms of giving up sweet is not a very easy thing, and giving up your other food habits. Wonderful
Yeah.
to hear from you, really.
Giving up sweet is not so sweet. Yeah.
No, Swami is one laddu I get, I finish in 1 month.
Okay, thanks, brother. And brother
Thank you.
Shastri, for the last summing up, one of the 108 names, Mahatman, if you could share.
Yeah, Sairam, brothers and sisters, today's
Sarah.
name that came to my mind was Om Sri Sai Satya Swarupaya Namaha, the number two name. But you see, I think there's so many examples that I can quote. I think we are already overshooting the time today. I'll
Yeah.
just complete with the two examples, two miracles that have happened experience, I would say. One is the related to Gandikota Subramanya Shastri. What happened was that he had given a discourse on December 25th on a Christmas day, and he forgot to think or remember of his Ishtadevata, that is Lord Shiva, and he went back to the room. But somehow in his heart, he was not at all comfortable, and he wanted to go back to Swami and take his pardon that he forgot to think of his Vishta Devata. The moment he reached, Swami said, "Okay, you want to see my form?" And Swami created a picture. That picture is the one that with the Lord, the Shivaling, and then Swami's face on top of it, and the
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
on top. And that moment, this Pandit had created this mantra, which is now we are all using Sai Ishwaraya
Right.
Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodaya. So, I think, Satya Swarupa, the Swami is, I am Shiva himself. So, you're not forgotten your Ishtadevata was what Swami had reconfirmed that Pandit. And second thing is, one of the devotees, the Swami is to go with the devotees to Chitravati River earlier days. There were only 10, 15 people with him on one of the days. And somebody asked him, Swami, what do you mean by Satya Swarupaya Namaha? So can you get the meaning of, can we see what is your Satya Rupa? Swami, after some time, suddenly disappeared from that group. And everybody was searching for Swami. In those days, Swami used to just disappear and hide here, there, and he used to stay from behind, front, somewhere on the tree. So they were trying to search him where he was, and they found that all of a sudden Swami was on top of a hill, the top of
Ah,
a hillock. And then Swami said, "Look at me." And then
get me.
all of a sudden he said, "Do you want to see sun?" Then the sun started appearing, and all of them
Yes.
said, "Oh, sun can come when it's already sunset and it's already dark." But really, the sun was there. It was so hot, and they were all started sweating. And secondly, then after some time, sun disappeared. Then Swami said, "Here, look at me. You will see the moon." The moon started coming up, and they all were, shivering in cold.
Yes. Yes.
Then third thing was Swami said, "Again, look at me. I will show you the third eye." So everybody was wondering what is this third eye is going to look like. Then they saw. So I think all of us must have seen, heard from Vijayamma garu herself speaking on YouTube also to the our team. So Swami's face alone was being seen, and the third eye appeared at Swami's forehead, and Swami's face was covering the entire sky. So Satya Swarupa is, of course, stands for the ultimate truth. So the Satya, the word Sat itself has a meaning to see the truth through your self-realization, Sakshatkara. So it's having another inner meaning of what that Sat means. But Swami had shown so many miracles to all of us to be clear about his own form and his own reality and to instill himself in our hearts. So that's the ultimate thing. So this I
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Beautiful. Thanks. Then today I think we had very good, long and but strong session with all the inputs from Brother Kumar and finally with Shastri. Grateful to all of them, and we'll continue with the remaining part, which I said I'm sorry I could not complete, but we'll do it in the next one, and then we'll have a general discussion and inputs and sharing from each one of us on that. Let's conclude with Samasta Loka. Om. समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय बोलिए भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय. Om Sai Ram, brothers and sisters. Have great week and days ahead. Thank you. Sai Ram.
Right.